go ahead and get started. I know people are still going to be coming in, but it's a little bit after 6:30, and we'd like to do a huge agenda tonight, so we'll make sure we get everybody in. Hopefully everyone signed in the back. If you haven't, please do so before you leave. And I'm going to go ahead and welcome everyone, and we're going to call the meeting to order. Our board member, Randy Riddick, is going to come and do the invocation. So if you could please stand, and that'll be followed by the Pledge of Allegiance.
Good evening. Let us bow our heads. Father, in the name of Jesus, Lord, we thank you for allowing us to come together to get some understanding. Things going on in our community and in this world. God, we ask that you open our minds, our hearts, that everybody will get a clear understanding of what's going on and just be courteous of each other as we speak on tonight. God, bless and amen.
Amen.
I'll pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
I want to welcome everybody for coming tonight. Members of the Seatack community and any of our visitors and guests, we thank you for your support. So we have a heavy agenda tonight, so I just want to say we're going to try to stick to the times. While we have our candidates here to speak, it's not a debate. It's here for them to tell us their position and why we should vote for them. And I did give them a couple of things that are of interest to Seatack that we really care about, and the same thing with the school board. Are both candidates here for the school board? Okay. All right, and then, so we're going to stick closely to the agenda. If you have questions, I need you to hold your questions until afterwards, because the rec center closes at 8. And we have to be respectful of the staff here. I have worked a full day, and I know at 5 o'clock, I don't want my phone ringing or anybody asking me any questions when I'm trying to get out the door. So we are going to be respectful of their time. At 8 o'clock, we can continue the conversation out there in the parking lot, but we can't do it in here, okay? So we just need to make sure, so hold your questions, write them down if you need to, find a person, if you need their emails, I can give them to you, whatever we need to do, but let's just hold the questions for tonight. So we're going to start with our rec center, as always. Ms. Brandy's going to come and tell us what's going on here at our wonderful but very small rec center.
Preach.
I don't see what that means.
All right, good evening, everyone. In respect of the packed agenda, I am going to go super fast. If you have any questions, please come see me after, or of course, we always have the team right up at the member services desk. So, quick reminder, I believe Greg spoke about this last month. We have our blood drive coming up on October the 13th. We do have a flyer in the back which gives information on how to make an appointment. We do have really good news about our building operating hours. We are getting back to kind of our pre-COVID times, which is really awesome. So Monday through Thursday, instead of closing at 8, effective November the 7th, we will be closing at 9 p.m. Friday, we will still close at 8, and Saturday and Sunday, 9 to 5 and 11 to 5, no changes there. Now, with that great news, I do have some difficult news about the pool. Due to ongoing national lifeguard shortages, our pool will not be opening until noon on Monday, Wednesday, and Fridays. Okay, so if you are an early morning swimmer, just take note of that. Monday, Wednesday, Friday, pool's opening at noon. And we have a whole host of upcoming programs. We have a little pumpkin painting party. I believe Greg spoke about that. There's flyers around the room. We have a Thanksgiving holiday fun. We have a basketball tournament. Of course, we have our Clean on Fridays program. Again, flyers in the back. That is free if you have a membership. We have a whole host of aquatics classes, swim lessons for youth and adults. if you are interested in that. All right, and community days. Seatack Recreation Center is happy to participate in our community days here. Upcoming, we have the Hispanic Fest on October the 15th. We will have a presence there, and we will also be at Rehoboth Church on October the 22nd. We'll have our presence there as well. All right, that's all.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay. Okay, thank you, I appreciate that. Okay. You emailed me?
I did.
Okay. And so now we have the Seatack Community Crime Report, and I didn't have in front of me. You're not getting our TikTok person?
You'll come up in a moment. I know you're gonna pay more attention to interviews. I want you to digest what I have to say first. Hey, good evening, everyone. Great to see you all. Great packed house tonight. So much like the last meeting when I discussed what's really affecting Seatack is really what's affecting the entire precinct. We're driving 50% of the crime, and that's homeless or unsheltered individuals, which we're seeing a large influx of into the area. I talked about at the last one how we made an arrest of somebody that broke in here, as well as St. Stephen's. But then also we made numerous arrests up and down Virginia Beach Boulevard, all the way up to an encampment that we found that was on federal property. Did I mention that last time? So we found a new encampment, and here's why I want to share this with you. There was a robbery that occurred. A gentleman broke into a car that had a gun and keys left in it down at the ocean front. That was a retired Miami police officer, which he should have known better. That individual went up Virginia Beach Boulevard, tried to rob the Yes. Tried to rob that. Wasn't successful. Went up to the nursery that's on London Bridge Road, and then robbed that. But we were able to track him to across the street, which is that old community commerce park. In there, we found probably one of the largest encampments I've ever seen in a long time. It actually dwarfed what we had going on over in Loretta Lane. The difference is that's on federal property. So the federal folks weren't aware of it. We went in there, advised everybody, hey, if you're on federal property, you're going to need to start thinking of a new area to go. So we gave that to them verbally. Then the next week, the federal folks came out. Members of NCIS as well as the base police came and said, hey, we're giving you a week. During that week, or those couple weeks, our homeless outreach folks that we've been working with for a while now, we're going in there trying to get folks services and into places. A couple of folks did take advantage of it. That week that we went out with the feds, I brought a detective out, and that detective was able to find 2 individuals that were associated with crimes he was working, suspects. So the third time we went out, which was just last week with the base police, the first person we came in contact with was on the run, knew he was wanted, and arrested him right away. But we saw a reduction in the amount of folks, down to about 4 people left. And then I went out there recently with the CAC leadership, Citizens Advisory Committee, and was able to show them the extent of the encampments. And when I say encampments, it's hazardous out there with what's out there. There's all kinds of just bad things, I'll say that, if I can put that in perspective. But anyway, long story short, so now we're in the process of trying to clean that up. The city's going to support it. The federal government's going to come up with a plan, and we're going to work together to get that cleaned up. And what we think is, as we cleaned up Loretta Lane, it pushed a lot of folks westward to that point, because a lot of the folks that were there moved that way. There was also a small encampment, which was, we made an arrest in the other day, one individual, which is off of Southern Boulevard. And a lot of this is up and down this corridor, the railroad. Yeah, so the CAC is actually putting in a grant to see if we can get some additional mental health and substance abuse counselors out. Now, the city is, which they haven't done before, which is, I've been asking for this since February. The city is now starting to have our peer recovery specialists, which are former addicts, go into these areas every Monday and Tuesday. So they're at the Ocean Park in these areas. On Wednesday and Thursday, they're focused on the western part of that Virginia Beach corridor. And then on Saturdays, we have an individual that comes out and does some outreach. So that is an area that we definitely have a gap in, because a lot of the issues that are in that community are mental health and substance abuse, which drives the small crime and the larcenies and all that. In addition to that, we have a planned patrol up down Virginia Beach Boulevard that the officers are focused on. In fact, today, the evening shift had muster, which Jude participated in, and explained to them all the issues in the area. We had muster right over at the Bird Neck Shopping Center.
Okay.
So rather than the officers sitting in the precinct and go over things, they're in the field learning what is affecting this community. And so they have a good understanding of what's going on, and they're required to come and sign out and do work over here. All right, so we're aware of it, we're working on it. I need to know some better numbers, which the city is working with PIN Ministries to get some better numbers. The numbers are going to be probably go from about 50 all the way up to what we believe is the true number, which is about 300 a year. So we're, once we get that true number, we're going to figure out how do we go about getting those folks out of that path also. But it is absolutely driving the crime.
I noticed that there's a bunch under the underpass,
Yeah.
where as you're trying to get on 264, they've got a little camp there.
So I just want you to know that our approach, criminal activity, we're going to handle all day long.
Right.
But when we approach, our officers have information on how to get services. So that is in the plan control. It's about services, it's about contact, it's about trying to get folks into a better place. But we will not tolerate criminal activity.
Right.
I'm sure you would expect the same.
No. Well, I know at Rehoboth, Deacon Oaks could probably attest to that. We had somebody trying to steal our catalytic converter. And they got it off, but you guys got there very quickly.
So the same thing happened over in the sportsplex, broad daylight,
Yeah.
11 o'clock in the morning.
Yeah, ours was the one too.
Took the director's Cadillac converter right in that parking lot. Again, it's driving that all along that corridor, so.
Yeah, yeah.
But Captain Harry, the city is trying to sell about an acre of land on Loretta Lane right now, and there's some other vacant land there that might help.
Here's what I would ask, and this is where it's going to need your input. The quicker we can develop some of these areas, the better off we will be to ensure that they don't come back and have these encampments, which affects the crime. So if we can come up with a plan to develop it sooner than later, it will help, I promise you. And Jude's just going to go over something real quick with you, and talk to you just a little bit more about that. Any other questions?
Yeah.
All right, well, less on the crime and more fun stuff. So October 15th, this upcoming Saturday, from 12 p.m. to 3 p.m., the Virginia Beach Police Department is partnering with the Hispanic Chamber of Coastal Virginia to put on our second annual Hispanic Fest. There's a flyer back there. This is designed to actually, create a day of fun and activities for our citizens in the Hispanic community that mostly live in Colony, Oval, Bowles, and also across Bird Neck, Trail City, and also every Hispanic community surrounding the second precinct. So if you guys do want to have time to go and stop by, or if you have some people in communities that feel like they'll benefit from it, they can stop by and be there. There's going to be music and food and activities and resources. Also, too, for our churches, we're having our religious institution security training session, November 5th. It's going to be 8 a.m. to 1 p.m. at Galilee Church.
Galilee Episcopal?
Yes, by the new, I can't remember the street. I don't know. Yeah.
Yeah.
So basically, this is meant for religious institution, the security staff. We're going to go over some trainings that could benefit the security staff, and also too, we're doing scenario-based, meaning we're actually going to have people that are going to come role play like their congregation, and then we're going to throw in like an incident that happens and see how the security staff react to that. Then we could go and do some teaching points from there and hopefully help them. So if you're a religious institution or you have or you go to a religious institution and you feel like your church will benefit from this training, please let me know, and we'll try and get you and your institution registered, and we'll go from there. Okay. And that is it for me.
Okay.
Yes, sir.
I'm just hearing where the Spanish festival will be.
I'm sorry, yeah, it's going to be in the convention center parking lot, right across from the police station.
Is it the convention center or the sports arena?
It's in between the precinct and the sports arena. in the convention
Okay,
center.
in between, okay, so by veterans.
And the same services that we had out for our Seatack, the Gate Seatack, you'll have those same services there. So if somebody missed that, come over and flu shots, vaccinations, all that stuff.
So also, Jude, I just wanted to see if you could expound on some of the other activities you've had throughout the summer, to let the community know what you've all been doing out there. I know I drove past a couple of them,
Right.
and they look real excited, so could you just give just a small insight of what you've been doing and where you've been?
Yeah, okay, so this summer, since I came to the community liaison side, we've had multiple events, including, I think almost weekly, we had the reading bus that we partner with Virginia Beach Schools, and they have a bus that's a library that goes to these neighborhoods, and especially the Colony and Hill City and also Atlantis. They'll go there, read stories to the kids and give free reading books. Sometimes we have the health department tag along with us, and then they provide free health information, you know, like wellness, eating, and COVID tests and stuff like that to the citizens out there. We also had engaged Seatack, which was a couple months ago out there in the Burnex Shopping Center. Same situation, but also bringing resources to the community where they might not know about or hear about it. So we felt like we should bring it out to the community. Also too, I mean, we had National Night Out, and if you guys want to do something big, National Night Out next year, you can let me know and we can get that going. Yeah, just basically, and if nobody knows what my job is, I'm the community liaison officer for the 2nd Precinct. So my job is to help better the partnership between the police department and its citizens. And if you have a specific neighborhood with specific problems, you can let me know, and we see how we can tackle those problems. So I'm available back here. After that, we can talk, and if you have specific problems like speeding and things like that, we'll try and see how we could help your community with that.
You also did Atlantis Community Day.
Yes, forgot about that. Yes, we had Atlantis Community Day, which turned out great. And we actually created a good partnership with that community. I go in there almost every other day to try and talk to them. Their front staff management to see what problems they're having. And also if they have a call for service that is kind of like bad or they have an issue with somebody, we're trying to see how we can fit in there as law enforcement entity to show our support. And we also do that, reach out to us if they're having problems. And say, hey, you might want to keep an eye out on this person. And we try to, you know, build that partnership and create that safety.
I just make a comment. I don't know if a lot of people know, but Jude knows it, Captain McBride knows it, and Ms. Felton knows it. But Cook Elementary School, which is right down the street, is the second highest ESL, English as a second language, school in the city. Point of View is the highest elementary school that has Hispanic students. So there's a large population here.
Okay, you're welcome. And I hope we'll see you at the Rehoboth Community Wellness Day on the 22nd of October. I'll get those hours to you. I appreciate that. And I guess, and also this month is, I think between September 15th and October 15th is Hispanic Awareness Month or Appreciation Month. So now we're going to go into, oh no, I'm sorry, Guy Towers here, our city councilman. And so he's gonna come and say a few words. And you have a few words to say to us.
I'll have very few words.
Okay.
First, sorry I'm late, I apologize, I was in a library board meeting.
Mhm.
Believe me, people in the library can talk too. I just had two things. One, it's great to see a good turnout, really good to see for a candidate thing. I'm just glad I'm not one, but I'm really happy you got a great choice. You know you do. I wanted to just point out two things. Number one, we have a new city hall in Virginia Beach. I think some of you know it, some of you may not. It's a beautiful building. It's very finally, and we got the building long before we got the equipment to put in it. It was built, I think, on budget and on time, even with the pandemic. It took us a long time to furnish it because of delays in supply chain, but it's now open. It's functioning, and there's dedication next Wednesday at 11 o'clock. And you're all welcome to come. Please come and see it. There'll be a brief ceremony, but we're giving tours and you can see what your tax money paid for. It's a functional building, but it's I think it's also a pleasant building to visit, which is the old building was really showing its age. It's being redone to serve public works and some other departments of the city. So we're reusing that building. It'll be completely revamped. The other thing I wanted to say is we had a great report at City Council last week from former Police Chief Jim Sparrow, who's heading or co-heading a study group on youth violence, which is a concern of people involved in government in all local localities, but in Virginia Beach. The main thing I wanted to say about that is if any of you are interested in the programs that are going, and knowing what programs are we doing now, and are they working, and should we change them, should we get rid of some, should we have different ones or new ones. This is really an interesting program. The first report we got was sort of where are we now? It was a survey. And if any of you are interested in getting a copy of that so you know what, because there's so many departments involved. There's human services, there's the libraries, there's schools. There are a number of programs, and some of them overlap, obviously, some of them have the same guy, and there are as many programs as we have, we should have better results. I think everybody would agree, but part of it is because it is hard to coordinate all those programs, and I'm really happy that we're doing this survey. It's a good time to be doing it. If any of you are interested in that, want to know more about it, just holler and I'll make sure you get copies of what I got distributed last week. So it's good information. I don't want to take up any more time, got a lot on your agenda.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you. Okay.
Yeah.
Good question.
We definitely want.
Yes, sir.
Another location, how much the new building comes?
How much the new building costs? Two for two? I'll find out, let you know.
Oh, on the building, and that was the 19th of October? This next, is that what you said, next Wednesday, the October 19th? Okay, all right, so before we get into the, to have the candidates come up, just want to remind everybody, because we might not get to the Civic League business at the end. Voter registration, you may have seen on the news that if you renewed or changed updated your voter registration at DMV, there was a problem, a glitch in the system, so make sure you go onto the voter registration and check your registration. I have a link here. I have QR codes where you can just scan with your phone and take you right to the site, so you can check, make sure your registration is up to date so you can vote. Deadline for registering online or through the mail is next Monday. However, we can register to vote and vote the same day right now up to, I think, it's on the website. I put it on the Facebook page. I can't remember the dates, but it's on there. We're still taking renewals to our Civic League. If you register now, it goes for the rest of this year and all of next year. It's $15 for the annual registration. So when I was putting this agenda together, I was at my paid job. So I was just putting the names on, and I meant to put them alphabetically, so please forgive me, but I will call them alphabetically. So, Mr. Branch, you will be first, followed by Marquette, followed by Kat, followed by Laura. Okay? Yes, I do. I'm watching the clock.
Thank you very much. So my name is Linwood Branch, and I previously did serve on the Virginia Beach City Council from 1992 to 2002. And then I took about a 20-year break, had 2 children, and last year when Jim Wood stepped down from council, I was appointed to his seat, the Lynn Haven seat. And as I went around and met with citizens and civic leagues and what have you, I found out that a lot of issues had been backed up. I guess COVID might have contributed to that. For example, the North End had been trying to get pedestrian crosswalks for years. And I was able to get them 13 pedestrian crosswalks in the budget that was going down. The folks in the Hilltop neighborhood had been trying to get a stoplight for that new Alaskan Road project. And after 2 accidents within a week, I asked for a traffic study, and we were able to get a stoplight now at Wynwood Drive and Alaskan Road. The resort area has been asking for parking for years. I got $75 million in this budget for parking. We're going to finally resolve the parking issues at the oceanfront. Bay Colony wanted a trail and playground. They've been working on that since 2017. We're going to form 2 committees, a trail committee and a playground committee, and we're going to have both of those things put in this budget coming up next year. And Washington Square has been trying to buy a 3-acre parcel of property for years to have a recreation area and playground. And just last week, the council committed to purchasing that property. And now I look at Seatack Park, and I had a few folks come to me about that and say, we'd like to do something with Seatack Park. And I asked our Parks and Rec department to come up with some designs for me, and they submitted them to me, and I was surprised to find out after some folks let me know that those plans were 4 years old. So it's the same circumstance that's been going on in these other civic leagues around, that things are just backlogged. So I would love for the Seatack Park to be part of this package that we're going to put together in our council retreat this year. Last year's budget, we took care of compensation, particularly public safety payment, STEP program, and the school water plan. This year, we're going to concentrate on parts of that. Playgrounds, rec centers. We asked the staff to come up with a study of 4 rec centers. Great Neck, Bayside, Princess Anne, and Seatack. They were built in the 90s. There are aging rec centers. Staff is going to come back with a report for us prior to the retreat and the budget that will be brought here to this group and the other places to take a look at. And we're going to address these rec centers as well. So that's one issue that the council is already working on, but I'm telling you, Parks and Rec centers are going to be a priority issue in the upcoming budget. In 1993, when I was 1 year on council, I volunteered to be the council liaison for this center, the Seatack Center. And it took a couple of years, and it wasn't easy. In fact, I bought some old newspaper articles. I keep all this stuff. And we actually had a vote against this center when it went to the budget, but 2 council members switched their votes and were able to get this rec center. So working with this community taught me a lot. It was my first real time with working with the community and learned how to do things and get things done. And I would very much look forward to doing that again on the Seatack Park and this rec center in the upcoming budget. Captain McBride mentioned homeless. That's a real issue. In my district, current district, Lynn Haven, it's not as much of an issue as it is, as he says, along Virginia Beach Boulevard and the Norfolk Southern Highway. If I'm elected to this seat, I will get very involved in that issue. I know that there are things that we can't do. We can't make people take services and what have you. But I was on the VB Home Now group that was the support group for the Virginia Beach Housing Resource Center on Ridge Duck Road. So I'm familiar with the staff there and what they do. In reality, we probably need to add another building to that. Homelessness is something we're always going to have to keep on, because if you let it go, like we've seen in other cities, it'll take over a city. So it's something we're going to have to be constantly working on. We have increased our dedicated staff from 2 to 4 that make constant contact with the homeless. The beach ambassadors also engage with them. But I think a citywide task force and a council liaison to a citywide task force is really where we need to go with the homeless. And as the captain says, developing this property is key to this. And there's parts of 17th Street that haven't changed since I've been a child. Another thing that we had on our list was, what about jobs here, and how do we make sure that the Seatack area is taken care of? I will tell you, I've taken a couple of tours of our Road Tech Center over on North Landing Road, and I'm absolutely committed to expanding our vocational opportunities for kids. I don't want to turn any kid away from a vocational opportunity. When you teach them how to auto mechanic, when you teach them how to electrical engineer, they have a trade and a skill for life. And believe me, these days it's so easy to hook them up with real jobs. We've already bought car manufacturers over and hook them up with the auto mechanics students there, and they're getting jobs right away. Am I done?
Yes.
Okay, and the last thing was the George Mint Street. There's a difference between naming and a dedication. A dedication is possible. Renaming a street is really intensive, because people that live on the street then have to change their address, but a dedication is possible. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
My turn?
Uh-huh.
I am RK. My name is Richard R.K. Kowalowicz. I owned an arcade surf shop for 31 years at the oceanfront. My wife, school teacher, 38 years in Chesapeake High School. She also now teaches substitutes at Virginia Beach because there was a need and she felt like she wanted to contribute more to society. My family's been in construction for 60 years. I am OSHA certified. I do building, I do construction. I understand it extremely well. I want to respond to a couple things I just heard that I think is really concerning to me. When you talk about spending $75 million to put parking away, that Mr. Branch is the one that took it away. I find that most interesting. $75 million. Police department. Let's talk about the police department a little bit. We've been at least 70 to 100 police officers short since 2001. Since 2001, and we're still 70 to 100 short. And actually, truth be told, we're probably 200 more short than we really need for a city of our size. That's the truth. That's public safety. That's one of the number one things that I'm going to address, to make sure that our police department is fully staffed and fully compensated. It is the backbone of everything we do when it comes to jobs and school and everything we have. The homeless situation, I've been dealing with that for a long time, and I've done some things about it in the past. Remember, I'm not elected. I'm not elected. Let's talk about the voting system. For 20 years, I beat the drum about an unconstitutional system, and finally a federal judge agreed with me. This district or ward system should have been a long time ago, because it's a representative form of government. That's what we as a state have to promise the federal government to have. And when you have good old boys, and really the problem with Virginia Beach, let me just say this to you. It's not about Democrats or Republicans, it's about the GOB, the Good Old Boy Network. I want to talk a little bit about that because I think the things you need to know. All the things and the monies are out here. Let's talk about 3 tax raises this year that were unnecessary. They raised our real estate taxes, $58.9 million. Mr. Branch thinks that's neutral. He thinks that's neutral. How does $58.9 million be neutral? Oh, by the way, he slipped in a $45 million slip sheet to the budget to buy some property at the ocean front for his buddies. Now let's talk about that a little bit. You need to hear this. Why is the city buying a $17 million hotel at the oceanfront? What is the city in business to buy properties that compete with another private company? This is not right. Who's he doing that for? Oh, by the way, Mr. Branch also talked about newspaper articles. You know the reason I'm in politics to begin with 20 years ago? Only one reason, Linwood Branch. You know why I'm in this race today? Linwood Branch. People need to know what's going on. You need to know who you're voting for, and all the deals that are being cut behind the scenes. Why is the city buying a $15 million Dairy Queen? Why did the city buy a $9 million piece of property that was assessed at $3.8 million on Virginia Beach Boulevard? And by the way, the last name was Sessoms. Sessoms should be a big name for everybody because the three amigos, that was Harrison, Branch, and Sessoms. Those are the guys that the Virginia Pilot reported on. They reported on it 20 years ago, and they reported on 3 weeks ago as well. This is the good old boy network. What about a $160 million deal at the Dome site that's been 5 years running? 5 years running. Taxpayers' money will compete with the private sector, and they're struggling to get financing. Seriously, how many business people in the room? 5 years to get financing on a $400 million deal, then $160 million is coming from the taxpayers, not counting the land. And you wonder why you can't get your recreation centers fixed and why you can't get your parking lots done, because he's spending your money. There was an $80 million windfall this year. Guess what? He didn't give it back. I can tell you who would have gave it back. RK would have. There's no way in a 50-year bad economy when people are spending $600 or $700 more a month to live and survive, and more coming, should it ever happen. How about buying 5 Teslas at the oceanfront for free rides for hotel guests? Are you kidding me? $550 million while people can't pay their power bills. That's Mr. Branch. That's what he thinks government is. He's an advocate for who? GOB. That's the truth. And everything I say is the truth. But don't believe me. Do your own homework. How about the new hotel just coming up? Did you know the convention hotel that we're going to pump a bunch of more money into to take care of his buddies? This is the truth. He's a wolf in sheep's clothing. He's the ultimate Trojan horse. And everybody needs to hear this. You need to know who you are voting for. And I'm sick and tired of being sick and tired. Just so you hear it in my voice. My signs say enough is enough. The question is, when have you had enough? When have you had enough? How much more do you want to be taxed out of your house? Okay, let me finish with this real quick. This is important. This is about you in this room. It's not about me. Here's my promise to you, and hear it well. If you vote for me and get me elected, you will vote for me every single time. If you vote for me and get elected, you will vote for me every single time. It's about we the people. For the people's way, vote RK.
Thank you.
Hi, first of all, thank you so much for having this forum here. I really appreciate the opportunity to get out. If you invite me to something, I will come. My name is Scott Porterfield, and I'm an award-winning journalist, a former editor and publisher with a first place award from the Chief of Naval Information and a Thomas Jefferson Award from the Department of Defense, both for news reporting as a civilian. These days, I'm a local realtor with the heart of a watchdog reporter who openly questions the reckless decisions made by questionably connected city leadership. I have stood before City Council to fight for raises for city workers, teachers, librarians, and those who make the city run, yet can't afford to live here. The preservation of old-growth trees and green spaces and their importance to natural flood mitigation. Thoughtful and comprehensive solutions to reduce gun violence. Individual liberties, which would be stripped away by a proposed noise ordinance that carries heavy fines and a potential criminal record for those who violate it. And I will continue to fight for us in our beautiful city by voting against any unnecessary new taxes or tax increases, especially as the city is experiencing a budget surplus. I will fight reckless development that threatens our delicate environment and work to hold those developers who have already created flooding issues responsible for fixing it. I will work to bring back our festival business. I will protect the public's right to know. And I will find out what really goes on at City Hall, and I will tell you, and together we'll fix it. I'll talk about your recreation center here, which, by the way, is absolutely lovely. It's amazingly immaculate. But it is a three-dimensional portrait of disparity in the largest historically black neighborhood in Virginia Beach, and that must be corrected. The Seatack Rec Center represents a second-class effort by the city to provide a substandard facility that has never really met the needs of this community. It is lacking in size, programs, and equipment, but what isn't lacking is quality of staff and the cleanliness of this facility. Those two things get high marks from community members. I've seen it called Virginia Beach's best kept secret, and this is based on the people here, not the site itself. Parking, hot button issue, right? But so is the pouring of pavement. The city should absolutely increase available parking here while consulting with flood and stormwater experts. Permeable pavement can be an option since it's far enough away from the beach to not be compromised by blowing sand. It's expensive, but it's about time money was spent to do the right thing in this neighborhood. The city seems to have historically value engineered services here. Increased homelessness in Seatack neighborhoods. Veterans, mentally ill adults, and these are our people that we're going out and we're looking for and identifying, what their homelessness, where it's originating from. And with substance use disorders make up the majority of our unhoused population in the city, and they are most likely to have difficulty connecting with services because they aren't prioritized like families and homeless youth who get to move a little closer to the front of the line for housing resources. The financial effects of the COVID shutdown, the deforestation completed to make the sports center a reality, and the placing of our city's services for the unhoused just about as far away from where our unhoused population prefers to be exacerbates this concern. The Food Lion on Bird Neck, where I shop and have shopped for over a decade, has gradually become a stage for our beach unhoused, and they have the spotlight. I recently spoke with a young man who works there and is living with schizophrenia. He said he can't use the bathroom in the store anymore because he continues to find people in there shooting up heroin. He says he is also struck with crippling anxiety when he has to go behind the store where he says people are camped out and high on heroin. You don't have to have a definitive solution in place to start addressing the problem. You just need to bust it down to what should be fixed first. Seatack needs to become known as a place where you can't just use heroin in public. We need to work harder to identify veterans advocates who will help us with our unhoused veterans. And we need imaginative ideas to tackle mental illness on the street. Make sure they are signed up for Medicaid and encourage therapy. Our libraries should have private stations where the unhoused can get access to online therapists. Disparity. There's certainly been an appearance in recent years of some kind of movement to turn parts of Seatack into some sort of industrial park to serve the resort area. There are also questionable practices by our city treasurer, who started collecting on tax liens in a way the city has never saw under previous leadership, and many of those tax sales are happening right here in Seatack. Y'all mentioned Loretta Lane, right there. This is a result of the loss of these properties that have been in these families for generations. Even the offerings in the neighborhood grocery store are subpar. I know this firsthand because I shop there. The neighborhood store is not at the quality of produce, meats, dairy, and healthy foods offered at the same chain in other parts of the city. And that's not the city's fault, but perhaps if we took a greater interest in how that property is being managed and come down on the owner to clean it up, better businesses and better jobs could grow there. On naming a street for E. George Mills. Honorary Street, I think it should be an artery. Why not Norfolk Avenue? George Mintz fought for this 10-district system that has allowed somebody like me to run and allow all of us better representation that more closely matches who we are in these 10 wards. This fight and the fight for stormwater management in this neighborhood are fights I will continue. Can I say one thing though, just because you mentioned Washington Square. I'm actually researching Washington Square right now. The developer of Washington Square had promised to put that park and that pool in back in the 70s. And now the city has ponied up and they're doing it for it. Never fulfilled the promise. Thank you. I know that.
Good evening, everyone. I'm Worth Remick. I'm the fourth candidate tonight, and thanks, Tammy, for having us Seatack Forum. I also want to take this opportunity to congratulate all three of my opponents and also the two school board candidates. I believe this is their first full in-person forum, and I look forward to participating, and thank you for your candidacy. This is what democracy is all about. So first, a little bit about me. I'm originally from Suffolk and Smithfield, Virginia, where my parents, my mother taught school, my father initially taught school, to put me through high school and college and give me great opportunities. I moved here in 1985 when I began my adult life and my business career, and I've loved it ever since. It's a great city, and I want to serve it now. I'm a husband, a parent, coach, and mentor. I coached boys and girls tennis at Cox High School 2006, mentor as well to many younger folks. And I'm a businessman. I sell and advise businesses on their industrial real estate needs. It could be defense contracting, distribution, ports, logistics, e-fulfillment, e-commerce. It's throughout the region. I've traveled 4 countries, 20 states marketing this region, this city, to investors, to businesses, to developers, to build and invest here. In 1992 to 2002, I served on the board of directors of Southampton Roads Habitat for Humanity, which is involved with affordable housing. Today, I'm the Secretary Treasurer of the Virginia Beach Community Development Corporation, which is our city's arm of affordable housing. I'm very informed on affordable housing as well as the homeless, which I'll talk about in a minute. In 1996, I attended the Sorensen Institute for Political Leadership at UVA. It's a fellowship that teaches about the role of state and local government, as well as stability in the public domain that we live in. I serve on the board of directors for Greenwood Collegiate, which is our city's first high school within a school. I'm also on the Mayor's Commission on Offshore Wind and Clean Energy. And I'm also on the Virginia African American Cultural Center Board of Directors. Last Saturday, we enjoyed our third fall festival. It's a 4.5-acre site the city donated to us. We hopefully are going to build something there, meaning the cultural center. It's going to cost about $10 million, but a long way to go for that. But in terms of my qualifications, I just went through a lot of what I've done in business here in the community. I've got the dedication and passion to serve the city, and I have no conflicts whatsoever in this district, and really in the city. And that's a really important part of this job, as RK has alluded to. So for the issues for Seatack, by the way, I am a member of this Civic League now for about 6-8 months. I've attended Civic League meetings since early 2020. I'm intimately aware of the issues here. I'll speak to the ones that we've spoken to tonight. I'll also say that public safety is important. Public safety still, as RK said, we're still police officers short, 75. Chief Newdigate told me on Saturday, we're still 75 police officers short, and we've got a great force, but it's taxing on our existing officers. School teachers, we were 100 teachers short this year. That's no excuse. We need to hire our teachers, bus drivers, other city staff. It's taxing and puts them in compromising positions. As for the issues that have already been talked about, this rec center is too small, as Kat very well said a minute ago, for this community. It's no excuse for this to be this size. It is. It's very well done. My wife swims here quite often, and it's a beautiful place. But it can easily be expanded in that direction. The parking needs to be expanded. That will be a top priority, and I will make no promises, and I trust that maybe all of our parks and rec centers need to be addressed across the city, but this one especially. Seatack Park, already spoken to. It's an easy fix to expand the parking lot at the Seatack Park, which we had an event about a month ago there, and it was packed, and we were parking out on Burnett Road. That's an easy fix. I can't promise again that does not cost a whole lot of money. A restroom also needs to be installed there. It's no excuse for that not to be there. Certainly, naming a street for Mr. Nens is certainly commendable, and I would be fully supportive of that. I agree changing the name of the street is difficult, and I love the idea of Norfolk Avenue, and I don't know if Burnett could be done, but we need to honor him in that way or in some other way. So my slogan, your interests, not special interests. Your interests, not special interests. Our neighborhoods and taxpayers come first. That's what I'm all about, and I ask for your vote, and thank you.
Thank you. Okay. I gotta tell y'all, this is better than I thought it was gonna be.
Give me 5 more and give that.
No, we gotta be out on time. We can do it outside.
I'm in. Bring that with you.
Okay. All right. So now we have 2 candidates for the school board. Again, we're gonna do the same thing, alphabetical. So, Mr. Cal.
Alan with a C in front.
Cal, okay. Thank you so much.
Good evening. My name is Mike Callan. I'm running for school board in District 6 in Virginia Beach, and I'd like to answer some questions that you may have of me. First of all, who am I? Well, I am the son of a fighter pilot who moved us here as a family in 1965. It was a time in life that's rather distant from what the world is today. It's a husband who is the breadwinner. He has a wife, my mom, and I'm one of 7. And I cannot imagine what it must be like to raise a family on 1 income with 9 mouths to feed. But that's what we did back then, and so we got used to being frugal and scrimping and saving and being diligent about the manner in which we lived our lives. I graduated from Princess Anne High School in 1971. That's over 50 years ago. But nonetheless, I meet my wife while we're there, and we fall in love and get married at the ripe old age of 20. At the ripe old age of 21, I become what's known as Dad. A few years later, I'm Dad again. And what I learned during this journey is this. Life is hard. It's so much harder than I imagined it would be when I was a teenager in high school. Marriage is hard. Being a dad is hard. Trying to establish a career is hard. I realize that its difficulty is a common denominator that all of us confront. And yet, if we are not prepared for that, and we've been misled that life is easier than we think, it's going to end up being a difficult encounter. So I become a father, as I mentioned, of 2 children. You blink twice, and all of a sudden one of those children grow up, get married, and they hand you a grandchild. And all of a sudden you lose your mind. If you've been a grandparent or are a grandparent, you realize just what washes over you, and you become somebody different than you ever imagined that you would be. And that's the reason why I'm here tonight running for school board. I have 4 grandchildren. 3 of them are in the public school system. And being a guy who grew up in the 50s and 60s and came from a family where, again, there was 1 income and 9 mouths to feed, the world has changed dramatically. And things that I'm seeing happen in the school system and the direction that it's taking my grandchildren, finally a domino fell, and I said to myself, you got 2 choices. You can either become an old curmudgeon and gripe and grouse and complain about what's going on, or you can get off the couch and go do something. So here I am at this point in my life. I'm a business owner. My son is my partner. We have a small business. We're financial advisors. What I will be bringing to the table will be an awareness and a familiarity with financial issues. One of the most meaningful things in my journey has been to be a volunteer in a ministry here in town called the Good News Jail and Prison Ministry. I've been in it for about 9 years, and it was brought to a halt as a result of COVID. But it's one of the areas of my life that I've been most impacted by, and it allowed me not only to tell people in prisons or in jails principles about life and living and taking care of themselves and their families, but also making them aware of financial issues that might make a difference when they get out. So here's where it boils down to. If you now know a little bit about who I am and why I'm running, here I want you to know what are the things that I'm for. Item number 1, parental rights. The rights of a parent mean more than anything else in the educational achievements of a child. If you have an engaged, involved parent or adult figure in the life of a child, it's going to be the difference maker. And we have had a time when some of the parents have arrived at school board meetings, whether locally or nationally, and they've been branded domestic terrorists. They're not domestic terrorists. They're a part of the problem, and they are concerned mama bears and papa bears, and they're concerned about what's happening to their children, and they're finally raising their hands and saying no. Item number 2, academic excellence. What I'm discovering is what we've done with our school system is to inflate grades, to give the appearance that we're doing well, and lower the standards to give the appearance that we're doing well. Is that 5 minutes?
Yes, sir.
Give me 3 seconds and I'll wrap up. Academic excellence, I'm standing on. Make sure you leave high benchmarks for people to reach for. Valedictorian, salutatorian, class honors. Don't remove those, reinstate those. And lastly, maintain discipline within the classroom so a teacher can teach and students can learn and the objective of a good education can be accomplished. Mike Callen, school board candidate, District 6. Thank you for the opportunity to speak to you tonight.
Your time is up.
Thank you. First, let me say thank you, this community. I want to thank you for your perseverance over the years. That you stood in the rain, you stood in the storm, you stood out when it was cold, and you voted every time. Thank you. Thank you for all that you've done. Thank you for allowing me to serve you for 8 years. And I want to go back for another 4 years. Because if you reflect back on 1954, parents stood up, Brown versus Board of Education, and said we need to be diverse. 1954, parents did that. Not only that, parents stood up and said in 1973, we want every child to have a free and appropriate education. You did that, parents. You stood up for that. Not only that, you would follow, you said in 1973, you said, I want my child to have a 504 plan because he's acting out, not because he got a bad problem. He just learned differently. So, I'm going to put a 504 in place. Parents did that. Not only that, you did not stop there. You said, I wanted my child to make sure that my child get an appropriate education, and I want him to have an IEP because he learned different from every other child. You put that in place, parents. You had that right. You stood out and did that. I want to thank you for that. I lived in Seatack all my life. I lived in Seatack where we only had one black high school, and that was Union Kingsfield. And we went there, we strived, and we did that, we worked on it. But now we've come together, society has dictated that we should come together and have public education. I'm all for public education because public education will teach any eligible child. And they mentioned they call it ESL. That means English is a second language down at Cook Elementary. We, the Virginia Beach Public Schools, stepped out and we created, the parents asked for it. We created a program that reached out to those students that can teach and read and learn English, not just the students, but the parents as well. You did that. Parents stuck up for that. Parents have always had a legitimate right within the school. But when you placed you on the school board, it gave you another voice. It made you have more awareness of what's happening in the school system and how could you get in there. I am godly proud of what Miss Bryson asked to speak on. She wanted to speak about equity. So equity is not just based on skin color, but it's based on so many other things. It's based on children at risk. It's based on homelessness. It's based on our poverty. It's based on students getting access to the resources. It's based on all of our students knowing about our academy in every high school. It's based on that, and we were the only division in the 757 that all schools were 100% accredited. The only division. That came with hard work, teamwork. And when they said the education stopped, it didn't stop. Our teacher was on the front line, working hard every day, putting their lives at risk. When people did not want them to wear masks, they went out there anyway and they worked it. Equity is about not just giving a child a computer to go home with, but he needs to have access to the internet. We stepped out, the parents stepped out, I got many calls, and make sure the kids got their fire sticks, make sure they had transparency with the internet, place them in our huddles and our learning centers, and make sure that they got their education. We worked hard at that. When the USDA food decided they were going to have a tug of war with food, the Virginia Beach Public Schools stepped out and made sure that every child received breakfast, lunch, and dinner every day. And I was out there on the front line making sure, riding out to the school, making sure that that happened. Parental, community involvement. Now, there's a whole lot more I want to say to that. I got it in my head and I want to talk with you. We are preparing our kids for college. We are preparing them for career skills, and we are preparing them for civic duty as well. We are doing it in our school. I want you to know that. Go to my website, SharonFelton.com. I can't tell you everything. I I get real emotional about this because I love public school. I know what it's done for me. I know what it's done for all my 4 children that went to the public school, and now my grandkids are in the school as well. It allowed me and afforded me to go to Old Dominion University to get my bachelor's in history. I've done that. I worked as a library specialist at ODU. But I want you to go to my website because I am for students, my employees, and my community. Thank you for this time.
Thank you. Okay, that's really good. You did really good on time, so that worked out perfect. I will have to say I am very proud of our school district, so Virginia Beach. I'm not from here, I'm not a transplant, I'm from Maryland, from Baltimore, and I went to public schools there. But my kids went to school here, all the way through. And my daughter has a PhD in behavioral neuroscience. And my son is an electrician mechanic at the Norfolk Naval Shipyard. He went to college for 2 years. He had fun with my money, that was it. And I told him that was all I was going to give him.
You're done.
And right. And so he went down to the apprentice program at the Norfolk Naval Shipyard. And he was in school at that. And one of the things that he came back to say to me was, Mom, I really learned stuff in school because he knew all, he could do all of the calculus, all the math. He was teaching the other kids how to get through their math classes. And they would get mad because he would fall asleep in the class and wake up and pass the test with 100. Because he already knew how to do all of those things. And that was because of the Virginia Beach Public Schools. So, I mean, they went to different high schools. Marissa was in the academy, Derek wasn't, but they both took advantage of programs that was available. I think Derek did ATC. One of the things I would say about equity is communities need to know more about what's available. Yeah, you spoke about the Seatack and academies. I just feel Ms. Felton knows I served on the Equity Council for the school board for a while, but before that, no idea how I got on this other committee, but I did. It was a grant, I think, that the city schools had. And that was one of the things we talked about was how to get information out. So one of the things to remember is when you have families where both parents are working and sometimes more than one job, it's hard for them also to be advocates at the schools or school board for their kids. It's not because they don't want to. It's because they're trying to put food on the table and a roof over their heads. And we, as a community, as a city, school board, have to make it easier for them to get the information about the programs that are out there. And we have some amazing programs in Virginia Beach. What we don't have is the show across the board, the equity and diversity of the same population in these programs. So we have the programs, but they don't represent the populations of the city in the programs. Not because we don't have kids that qualify for them. It's simply because they don't have the means to get the information, the application, or understand how it works, or for their parents to get them involved. And we got to do a better job at getting that information. And I'm not running for any office, so don't write my name into nothing. Okay. All right. What? I don't write my name. Okay, I want my soapbox. Okay, church and community announcements. The floor is open. I do know that Rehoboth, do you want to talk about Rehoboth? You want me to talk about it?
You can talk about it.
Talk about it? Okay, you can always make me talk about it. Rehoboth is having a community wellness day, very similar to what they're doing on the 15th. This is on the 22nd. The health department is involved. There will be COVID, flu shots. They're going to talk about mental health. They're going to have programs for kids. I believe they're going to have food because, you know, that's always important. And they, to get people there, they're going to have food and activities for kids, and I think even a pumpkin patch. So there's a whole list of things that they're doing, working on. That's October 22nd. It's going to be in the back of Rehoboth, the field between Rehoboth and New Jerusalem. That field back there, it's going to be back there.
Volunteers.
Yeah, we do need volunteers, yes. We do need volunteers for that event. And also, they're also looking for volunteers to work the polls. So remember, they're going to open the polls here, and at the rec center in the annex building, I think on the 25th, 23rd, something like that. 24th, right here for voting, and they're gonna need, they're looking for people to help with that. I'll have the link on our Facebook page, and I'll put it on our website. If you're interested in helping with that, let me see anything. Any other community announcements or anything else? Yes, Vanessa.
I was an election official for years in the past in the early 80s, and I just stopped doing it a few years, not too many years ago. You do get paid to work the polls. As an official election officer, you do have to go to a class to get paid for that. You usually have to be at your polling station at 5 in the morning, but and you're there till 8, you can't leave until the end of the day. But it is a paid position.
So those are two different ones.
Yeah. The day of election day, it is a paid position.
Now that is already on our Facebook page and our website because the city did send that out. So that's actually working the actual polls on election day. The volunteer ones I'm talking about are the ones where you're outside, directing people and informing them about voting. Early voting has already started. You can still vote now. You go down to the courthouse, and I give you a tip. If you go at 8 o'clock in the morning, nobody will be there but you. Walk right in, walk right out. It works great. And Kurt?
Yeah, I was just going to squeeze in New Jerusalem Ministries, not New Jerusalem Coaching. New Jerusalem Ministries is having a Community Health Day, which is on the 15th of October. It's going to be a car show. It's going to be specific to men's health. We're going to have several doctors there from Centera Hospital that will be speaking, raffle, vendors. It's going to be a good time in regards to that. If you do have a vehicle you want to show, get with me later so we can make that happen.
Okay.
The New Jerusalem Ministries in Virginia Beach. Thanks.
So that is Pastor Veronica Coleman, right?
Yeah, Dr. Veronica Coleman is the pastor.
That's on Singleton Way.
Yeah.
It's a church. We'll put that on our, I'm sorry?
That's what we add.
I just said Singleton Way.
I'll get.
I know what that is.
Yeah, so see, I'll put
It's
it
on
on.
Singleton Way. I want to say it's 1812 Singleton Way, but I don't want to give the wrong information out. I'll double check that and make sure we post it on the website.
1552 Singleton Way.
Okay, and if you have a flyer, just
Thank you,
send it to
ma'am.
me. I'll put it on our Facebook page.
Okay, we'll do.
Okay, so let me
Thanks.
put that out there. So that's New Jerusalem Ministries, then we also have the police department thing. So those are both this coming Saturday. And then City Hall is next Wednesday, the 19th, right?
Yes, and
12
by the way,
noon?
I don't know if you asked how much it costs, it's $50 million around.
Oh, 50 million, okay, all right. Okay, and then also, last thing I will say is, there are various commissions in the city, and we like to have some representation on there. You need to go onto the city website and put in an application as a volunteer. It's a volunteer application, and then indicate the commission that you're interested in, and then tell me, and then I call him. So he knows to be looking for it. Okay?
Put your name in the talent bank.
Yes.
I'm sorry?
Your name needs to be in the talent
And
bank.
a talent bank, yes.
Tomorrow night from 7 to 9 at the ARE at the ocean front, there's a debate between us candidates, us four candidates tomorrow from 7 to 9, so it will be more of a debate format.
Okay.
You can probably hear a lot more information. 5 minutes is real hard to get a lot of stuff.
It is.
When you're in a role like I get, you know,
7 p.m. to 9 p.m. And where is it at?
ARE.
Edgar Casey? Okay. Okay. All right. Yeah. Okay. And is that gonna be filmed or anything?
You're probably going to be.
Probably will be, I don't know if it's gonna be live streamed.
Okay.
I'm not a
Okay.
Most interesting, that's all I can tell you.
And is it District 6? Is it also the school board or just the city council?
City council.
Okay.
There's a school board meeting on tomorrow night, please come out. Yes, we do.
You know I watch you on the thing.
Thank you.
Y'all go too late for me. Okay. All right. Okay. I think that's everything. Any other church announcements? We're getting out on time, y'all. Look at this. This is great.
You guys have some questions?
Yeah. Okay.
If you want no more questions, I mean, you want to ask more questions.
Right. So you can go directly to them. Y'all can stay in your corners. They can ask questions. But at 8 o'clock, everybody got to get. Okay. All right. So let's go ahead and do the benediction. And then you guys can ask all the questions.
Congratulations. I good and pleasant for brothers is really good unity. Thank you, Lord, for this meeting, dear Lord. Guys and leads in the right direction. I hope everybody have a safe trip, dear Lord. God, Lord. I just thank God